Oh, hi. What happened? Well, as soon as Jerry had left, I stepped inside and then just doubled over with pain. But let's step back in time a few days. We were headed to an annual medical appointment with our GP and internal medicine physician, who we've known for over 20 years. Smart, intuitive, and kind aren't really close enough to describe this man. During the exam, I had mentioned that a few days earlier I had awoken with some sort of discomfort to my inner thigh, upper right leg. He checked it out and immediately ordered an ultrasound of the site, and then asked me if I would just take it easy for a couple of days until we get the results back. The next morning we had the test, and you could see some concern in the technician's eyes. She had me sit still on the table until she could have her radiologist evaluate the results. When she came back, she told me that my physician would be contacting me. Sure enough, Dr. M, our doc, called me back and said that he was going to be putting me on some blood thinners and to come back in the morning. It turns out that I had developed a large clot in the longest vein in my body. But the concerning part for him and the radiologist was just how very close it was to becoming a DVT, or deep vein thrombosis, which could be pretty dire. They decided to treat it as one and be proactive, hence the thinners, to help prevent any further clotting. Videos being important to me, I called Jerry and asked him to take me into Scottsdale so that I could get some footage for our next video. Now we're pretty much up to speed. The pain I felt was impressive and concerned me enough to want to have an evaluation at an ER, especially with recent history. So I barely said hi to Shelley and asked her to take me in. That's not something that I would normally say. The pain was getting sharper, and I was having images of the clot moving. It's amazing the things you can come up with in your mind when you don't really feel very good. She had immediately kicked into full dispatch mode. Before I knew it, she had dialed 911 and put things in motion. At this point, I didn't care. The crew arrived and was fantastic. Very professional, and there were a couple whose names I recognized on their uniforms. Face masks, so you couldn't really tell who they were. EKG, IV, medicated for pain, and whisked off to the closest ER. Amazing group of people. After a few hours, the pain had subsided, but was still there in a menacing kind of way. Now, something important we want to share with you, though, is a few problems that we have dealt with in the past at our jobs, but got to experience here firsthand. Our current park, a really nice one, is having electronic gates added, and the usual entrances are blocked. RVs, residents, guests, deliveries, police, and fire have to use an entrance/exit that's not been used before. Well, corporate at the park evidently neglected to notify communications for PD fire through our dispatch center of the address change. Plus, the RV side is really new, and no maps with space numbers had been given to the city for dissemination to emergency services. So when you call and give a space number, all that the dispatcher or responding unit gets on their maps are lot numbers and no association to the space number, pretty much leaving the crews to wander looking for a waiver at the emergency. That's just not cool. Shelley spent the day after the incident notifying the park, their security, PD and fire, providing all with park maps, proper addresses and space numbers. Some may ask about security. Couldn't they guide them, EMS, PD, to the space? Yeah, sure, if they're on duty. But sometimes they may not know that there is a discrepancy and just ask emergency services, you know where you're going? And neither, not knowing that the information they have is incorrect, so the responders just say, yep, and head on in. Or maybe the guard is reluctant to leave his post at the gate if they are short-staffed. Our suggestions? Keep the local EMS, fire, and police numbers on a dry erase magnet on the fridge. Make sure you have the name and current address, not just mailing address, but physical address of the gate to your park. Maybe even write down the street name and number of the spaces down from the name of the street and on what side of the street your rig is on. If you have a pre-existing medical condition, you might get to know your park neighbors, because in some cases, when no one else is around, they might be able to guide services to your site, and you may get lucky and have a traveling or retired nurse, paramedic, physician, or PD officer who would be invaluable in an emergency. There is a great fridge magnet for contact information from another YouTube travel channel, You, Me, and the RV, and we'll add a link to that below. I was lucky that Shelley was on top of everything and had a solution to our problem. In a world of travel, especially in an emergency situation, you have to be your own best advocate, and pain can make the ordinary very confusing. We are lucky to have each other and so much previous experience. We hope you can learn from us and have a plan for the unexpected, because in an emergency, time can be of the essence. So please put a plan together and practice it till it becomes second nature, automatic. We will always hope that you travel safe. Well, for those of you that haven't done it, I highly recommend getting a CT scan with contrast.